The vast Gobi Desert stretches out before me, an expanse of ochre sand dunes and rocky outcrops that seems to go on forever. I have come here, to the heart of Mongolia, to search for a creature that is said to lurk in these arid wastes, the Mongolian death worm. It is a creature of legend, said to be around 2 meters long and as thick as a man's arm. Its skin is said to be red and to have no discernible features except for 2 gaping maws at either end of its body. But what makes the Mongolian death worm truly terrifying is the lethal poison it is said to secrete. One touch is enough to kill a human being, and the creature is said to be able to spit its venom for several meters. As I trudge through the sand, my eyes scanning the terrain for any sign of movement, I'm acutely aware of how dangerous my quest is. There is little reliable information about the Mongolian death worm, and most of what is known has been passed down through generations of nomadic herders who claim to have encountered the creature. But I am undeterred. My passion for the unknown, for the strange and mysterious, drives me forward. I am equipped with the latest technology, including infrared cameras and GPS trackers, and I am determined to capture the first ever footage of the Mongolian death worm. Days turn into weeks as I journey deeper into the desert. The sun beats down relentlessly, and my water supply dwindles rapidly. The sand shifts constantly beneath my feet, making progress slow and arduous. But I am undaunted. Then one day, as I am setting up camp, I see it. A movement in the sand catches my eye, and I turn to see a writhing mass of red squirming towards me. My heart thuds in my chest as I realize that this is it. The Mongolian death worm. I fumble for my camera, trying to keep my hands steady as I zoom in on the creature. It is everything I had heard and more. Thick, red, and pulsating, with a head at one end and a gaping maw at the other. It moves like a snake, sinuous and swift, and I can almost feel the lethal poison oozing from its skin. I am so transfixed that I almost don't hear the howling wind that has suddenly picked up. It whips around me, carrying sand and debris in its wake, and I am forced to shield my face. When I look back up, the Mongolian death worm is gone, swallowed up by the swirling sand. Disappointed but undeterred, I continue my quest. I press on through the desert, following the elusive creature wherever it leads. I see it several more times, always just out of reach, always disappearing into the shifting sands. But each time, I am more determined to capture it on film. Finally, one day, as the sun sets over the desert, I get my chance. The Mongolian death worm appears before me, writhing and pulsating in the fading light. I press play on my tripoded camera, holding my breath as I capture the film. The creature is mesmerizing, moving sinuously and gracefully through the sand. I can almost see the venom glistening on its skin, and I feel a thrill of fear and awe. But as I film, I realize that something is different. The creature is not moving with the same fluidity as before. It seems sluggish and labored, as if struggling to stay alive. And then I see why. Its skin is covered in tiny puncture marks, as if it has been attacked by some kind of predator. Its movements become weaker and weaker until finally it comes to a stop. I approach cautiously, my camera still rolling, and see that the Mongolian death worm is dead. I feel a pang of sadness at the sight, but also a sense of triumph. I have captured the first ever footage of the creature, and I know that it will make headlines around the world. But as I pack up my gear and start to make my way back to civilization, I can't shake the feeling that something is not quite right. As I walk into the hotel lobby, I greet the concierge at the front desk. She seemed to have ignored me or not have heard me. I shrugged it off as I was exhausted from my days in the desert. The TV was on as I walked back into my hotel room. The news was airing, and to my surprise, it was my film that was being shown. What I saw next didn't make sense. A thrill shot up my spine, and every hair on my body rose. The footage zoomed in on the puncture marks on the Mongolian deathworm's skin. The tooth marks were unmistakably human tooth marks. My teeth marks. The footage continued to show me fighting for my life as the Mongolian worm tore me to pieces. It was clear how I fought for my dear life, biting and scratching at the beast to no avail. They must have found my campsite littered with my remains and equipment. It was only then that I realized why no one had spoken to me since I've arrived back in town. I hadn't realized my demise as I was nothing more than a lost soul. Story 2. The Jersey Devil. The night was dark and stormy, the wind howling through the trees as I made my way through the pine barrens of New Jersey. I had come here to investigate the legend of the Jersey Devil, a creature said to roam these woods, terrorizing the local population. As a journalist, I was always looking for a good story, and this one seemed too good to pass up. The story of the Jersey Devil dates back to the early 18th century. Legend has it that a woman by the name of Mrs. Leeds, who lived in the Pine Barrens with her husband and 12 children, became pregnant with her 13th child. He cursed the child in frustration, declaring that it would be the devil himself. When the baby was born, it was said to have wings, a long tail, and a goat's head. It flew out of the window and into the woods, where it has been spotted by locals ever since. As I trudged through the muddy forest, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The stories I had heard about the Jersey Devil were enough to give anyone nightmares. It was said to have glowing red eyes, sharp teeth, and talons like a bird of prey. It was said to attack livestock and even humans, and its haunting cry could be heard echoing through the woods at night. I had my camera and recorder with me, hoping to capture some evidence of the creature's existence. But as the wind whipped through the trees, I began to wonder if I had made a mistake in coming here. Maybe the legend was just that. A legend with no basis in reality. Suddenly, I heard a rustling in the bushes nearby, my heart racing. I raised my camera and started filming. But what emerged from the bushes was not the Jersey Devil. It was a deer, startled by my presence. I breathed a sigh of relief, but my sense of unease didn't abate. The storm was getting worse, and the rain was coming down in sheets. I was cold and wet, and I couldn't help but wonder what I was doing here, alone in the woods, chasing a creature that may not even exist. But then I heard it, a blood-curdling scream that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest, and I knew that I was not alone in the woods. I turned on my flashlight, and the beam illuminated a pair of glowing red eyes in the darkness. They were the eyes of the Jersey Devil. My first instinct was to run, but something held me back. I was a journalist, and my job was to uncover the truth, no matter how scary or dangerous it might be. So I stood my ground, my camera rolling, as the creature emerged from the shadows. It was even more terrifying than I'd imagined. Its wings were massive, with a span of at least 6 feet, and its goat-like head was adorned with sharp horns. Its eyes glowed like hot coals, and its claws were as long as my forearm. But what struck me the most was the sound of its cry. It was a high-pitched, eerie wail that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. It was unlike anything I had ever heard before, and it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. I kept my camera trained on the creature as it circled me, its wings flapping in the wind. It seemed to be sizing me up, deciding whether to attack or not. I didn't know what to do. Should I run, or should I stay and keep filming? Suddenly, the Jersey Devil took off into the air, its wings propelling it upwards. It flew higher and higher until it disappeared into the storm clouds. I stood there, drenched and shivering, unable to believe what I had just witnessed. But as I made my way back to my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that the Jersey Devil had left its mark on me. Its haunting cry echoed in my mind, and I knew that I would never forget the terror of that night. When I got back to my office, I reviewed the footage I had captured on my camera. The video was shaky and blurred, but there was no mistaking the image of the Jersey Devil as it circled me in the darkness. It was the first time anyone had ever captured the creature on film, and I knew that it would make headlines around the world. But as the story went viral, I began to receive emails and phone calls from people claiming to have seen the Jersey Devil as well. They told stories of livestock being attacked, of strange footprints in the woods, and of eerie cries in the night. Some even claimed to have seen the creature up close and described it in even more terrifying detail than I had. As I delved deeper into the legend of the Jersey Devil, I began to uncover even more strange and disturbing stories. There were reports of a secret society of devil hunters who were said to be dedicated to capturing the creature at all costs. There were rumors of a government cover-up, with officials denying the existence of the creature to avoid panic among the public. And there were whispers of a curse on the Pine Barrens, a curse that had given birth to the Jersey Devil and would never be lifted. I became obsessed with the legend of the Jersey Devil, spending hours researching and interviewing witnesses. I traveled to other parts of New Jersey, searching for clues and trying to piece together the mystery of this strange and terrifying creature. But the more I learned, the more I realized how little I really knew. The Jersey Devil remained an enigma, a creature that defied explanation, and seemed to exist in a realm beyond human understanding. And as I look back on that stormy night in the Pine Barrens, I realize that I may have been the lucky one. I may have seen the Jersey Devil, but I lived to tell the tale. Others have not been so fortunate, falling victim to the creature's wrath and disappearing without a trace. The legend of the Jersey Devil will always be shrouded in mystery and fear. It will continue to haunt the Pine Barrens of New Jersey and inspire terror in the hearts of those who hear its eerie cry. But for me, it will always be a reminder of the power of myth and legend, and of the strange and wondrous creatures that may exist in the world beyond our understanding. I continue to hear the shriek of the Jersey Devil, as if somehow connected to it, The days turned into weeks. The thoughts and sounds of the devil began to intensify in both frequency and strength. Nightmares had interrupted my sleep, waking up covered in sweat and out of breath. The image of its piercing red eyes haunt me when I close my eyes. I can almost feel its presence during stormy nights. I have begun to feel unsafe when alone. I feel a sense of paranoia and flinch at any sudden noises. While laying in bed, I could hear staggering footsteps on my roof, as if some type of wild creature was trekking upon it. I grab my flashlight and head outside to investigate. At first, I see nothing, when all of a sudden, a glow of red eyes glare back at me. I make a run for my door, but it was too late. The Jersey Devil, claws shining in the moonlight, ferociously shrieks at me. I tried to turn and run, but my muscles wouldn't move. It was as if it had paralyzed me from the neck down. The Jersey Devil slowly steps towards me as if analyzing my thoughts. The last thing I saw was its open, fang-riddled mouth.